Welcome back to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. On this edition of the Sal Greco Show, Mayor Eric Adams. What can I say about Eric Adams? He gave the key to the city to another convicted criminal rapper, Fat Joe this time, who happens to be a very well-distinguished alumni of Con Sofrito in the Bronx, which is now finito. Then we find out that Eric Adams' advisor, Eddie Caban, they had their trips paid by the UAE government when they went over there. And then abruptly his advisor resigned and left the office right after. Very, very, very odd what's going on there. More foreign countries involved with Eric Adams' administration. And there's more questions than there are answers. And then finally, Anthony Miranda, the New York City sheriff, another Con Sofrito alumni. He is full of corruption and misdeeds. This time he's driving around using his car. You know, it's a misuse of department vehicle, and it's really official misconduct. We'll get into that, and also my interview that I did with Carlos on his show, and we'll play that, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. But right now, let's hit the intro, and let's get into it. All right, so as you were hearing in the beginning of the show, Fat Joe, a Kamala Harris surrogate, who is probably, you know, another conflicted guy who's a rapper from the Bronx, and I don't know, he has a whole history, terror squad. He says he's used to sell crack, and I mean, he's been in and out of trouble. He is a convicted felon because he did not pay his taxes, but he's also a good friend of the infamous Jimmy Rodriguez, the mob associate and self-admitted criminal, who's the creator manager of the now defunct Con Sofrito in the Bronx, which is finito. And he ended up getting the key to the city from his pal and party all the time friend, Mayor Eric Adams. They partied a lot at Con Sofrito together. And the last guy Eric Adams gave a key to the city was none other than P. Diddy Sean Combs, a guy who ended up being investigated by the same guys that are investigating Eric Adams right now. I don't know if this is an omen, but I found it very strange how P. Diddy got the key to the city, and it's almost like he invited the feds to his home after with all the stuff that happened. So let's roll to the video.
Fat Joe is being honored tonight in a concert hosted by Rise Up NYC. And News 12's Marissa Santorelli was there at Orchard Beach with a front row seat to all of the excitement.
Thousands of people are here tonight at Orchard Beach to celebrate a hip-hop legend who is no stranger to our borough, Fat Joe. Performances led to the icon taking center stage. And the best part of it all, tonight, he's accepting the key to the city. The energy was electric as New Yorkers of all ages danced and sang along to iconic throwbacks. Rise Up NYC hosted a stellar lineup, including artists like Funk Flex, Dougie Fresh, Chubb Rock, Wayne Wonder, and duo Bobby Condors and Jabba. Finally, headlining the show was the Bronx's very own Fat Joe.
Fat Joe is everything.
And Fat Joe is just the man of the Bronx. He represents us.
And Joe getting his accolades after all the things that he's been through, trials and tribulations. It means a lot to me and everybody from the Bronx.
Mayor Eric Adams made an appearance presenting Fat Joe with the key to the city. We spoke with the mayor, who tells us this honor is well deserved.
And this is a brilliant way of acknowledging 50 years of hip-hop and how we're looking at a legend. Fat Joe is a real legend, and we're just really thrilled about giving him the key to the city.
Concert organizers tell me this wasn't just a concert. It was a celebration of unity, diversity, and resilience of New York and its people.
The next thing we're looking at is the UAE was paying for trips for his advisor, and of all people, the brother of the owner of Con Sofrito in the Bronx, which is now shuttered, Eddie Caban. And Eddie Caban, who I don't know what the explanation is, that a police commissioner needs to go travel the world, because the last time we saw this in the police department, it was the now deputy mayor of public safety, Philip Banks, who ended up becoming an unindicted co-conspirator because he took a bunch of executives all around the world. So they charged him with corruption. And he ended up becoming the unindicted co-conspirator, and everyone else was either had to resign, who got charged, who was prosecuted. So why are we going to prosecute those executives from the past and not look at Eddie Caban? What was Eddie Caban doing? The head of the police department going to foreign nation, which, by the way, he was in Qatar. Qatar is a nation that has an office for Hamas. Now, remember, New York City, the largest Jewish population other than Israel. He has sensitive information as the police commissioner. The hell is he doing sitting down with a foreign government like Qatar that harbors an office for Hamas in that country? Where is the Jewish community? You have to stop having a blindfold and saying the police department and I love the police. Some of these guys up top are extremely corrupt. Turning a blind eye will not change the situation in New York City. Supporting Donald Trump for president is great. It will not change your lives in New York City. Not when you have this kind of corruption. Will the flow of illegal immigrants come into New York City change under President Trump? Yes. But will it change your day-to-day life? Absolutely not. You will still have to deal with Mayor Eric Adams if he's not stepping down or being indicted or charged. And you're still going to have Eddie Caban as the police commissioner, unless Kaz Dordry becomes that. So let's read this article now. Documents show UAE paid for Adams' advisor's visit. By Chris Sommerfeld of the New York Daily News. The United Arab Emirates government paid as much as $5,000 for Joel Eisdorfer, then a senior city hall advisor to Mayor Adams, to visit the Middle Eastern country for a summit in February. Newly released documents show the visit, which Eisdorfer took with NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban and International Affairs Commissioner Edward Mermelstein, drew headlines at the time as it was among a number of overseas trips involving top Adams administration officials for which the mayor's office declined to disclose funding details. Eisdorfer, who stepped down in June from his post as Adams' Jewish community liaison, had to submit a 2024 financial disclosure upon his resignation. The form reveals the UAE's Interior Ministry picked up the tab for his trip. Provided to Daily News by the Conflict of Interest Board this week, the form says the UAE Interior Minister spent between $1,000 and $5,000 on Eisdorfer's visit. It's still unclear who paid for Mermelstein and Caban to go. The NYPD and Adams' office didn't immediately return a request for comment Wednesday. Eisdorfer as well didn't return a request for comment. Before leaving City Hall, Eisdorfer was in talks with Frank Carone, Adams' ex-chief of staff, about joining his lobbying firm. However, a source familiar with the matter said Wednesday that Eisdorfer is instead expected to start his own consulting firm. Eisdorfer has also said he plans to work on Adams' 2025 re-election bid. I like to see that one, Eisdorfer. While in the UAE, Eisdorfer, Mermelstein, and Caban attended the World Government Summit, a UAE government-sponsored conference in Dubai, where keynote speakers included Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and ex-Fox News host Tucker Carlson. The Emiratis news agency said at the time that Caban and Eisdorfer met with UAE Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Saif bin Zayed Al Nahyan, I hope I didn't butcher that name, at the summit to talk about plans to enhance cooperation between New York City and the Middle Eastern country, particularly in security and law enforcement. The Adams officials' visit came after the NYPD raised controversy for having officers participate in a training exercise in UAE alongside members of the Akhmat Special Forces Unit, a Chechen militia that's fighting in the war in Ukraine on Russia's behalf. Ukraine's government has accused Akhmat of war crimes. Bond's UAE visit followed 3 overseas trips he took in 2023, for which the NYPD declined to disclose funding details. His 2023 financial disclosure released this month revealed all 3 trips were bankrolled by foreign governments, including an October visit to Qatar. The details about Eisdorfer's UAE trip also come from Mermelstein's 2023 financial disclosure, released this month, showed Azerbaijan's government paid for him, and Rana Abbasova, a longtime Adams aide, to visit that country last fall on a previously unreported trip. Abisova has since been suspended from City Hall after her home was raided by FBI agents as part of the federal investigation to whether Turkey's government pumped illegal donations into Adams' 2021 campaign coffers. Mermelstein's disclosure also revealed he accepted between $2,000 and $10,000 in gifts from Colombia's government and the U.S.-Mexico Foundation to cover portions of a trip to Latin America he took with the mayor last year to learn about the root causes of the city's migrant crisis. The gifts came after the mayor, who also got parts of the Latin America visit compared by foreign entities, has told reporters his team picked up their own costs on that trip. Yeah, I'm sure. And then we're going to get to the final topic here, which is New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda. I mean, this is a guy who has a checkered past. I mean, his name comes up in all kinds of corruption-prone issues. And he is apparently misusing his department vehicle. I mean, this is official misconduct. He's also going after weed shops. I saw that also hit the news. He's also, again, another guy, good friends with Jimmy Rodriguez, the mob associate and self-admitted criminal and creator-manager of the now-defunct Conso Frito in the Bronx, the Hall of Felons. And he was at a party there very recently that ended up being the reason why, the final nail in the coffin for why Conso Frito was shuttered. So let's get to the article here regarding the one aforementioned Anthony Miranda. New York City Sheriff accused of using lights and sirens to beat traffic on the Long Island Expressway. The aforementioned Anthony Miranda, there's a wonderful picture of him. Looks very much like Lurch. This article is by Thomas Tracy of the New York Daily News. New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda has been accused of repeatedly using the emergency lights and sirens of his department vehicle to speed through rush hour traffic as he has made his way to work and on occasion escort his adult son to the job, the Daily News has learned. The New York City Deputy Sheriff's Association, the union representing Miranda's rank-and-file sheriffs, is demanding a probe into what they are calling a clear violation of Miranda's authority. President Ingrid Simonovich said. Complaints filed with the city's Department of Investigation, including photos and video, claim Miranda uses his squad car's lights and sirens to go to work absent an emergency every day. He has a double standard, one for him and one for everyone else, Simonovich said. There's no reason to go lights and sirens when there is an emergency, but he does it every single day just to go to work. If it were one of my guys accused of doing this, Miranda would have done an investigation and sought termination. You can't be a hypocrite, she said. If you're going to enforce the law, you need to follow the law. The DOI complaint filed on October 12, 2023 with photos of his unmarked SUV indicated department ID number and license plate of the vehicle Miranda uses, the sheriff's home address in Queens, and at times he heads into work on the usually congested Long Island Expressway heading toward Manhattan. He drives very aggressively and dangerously, the complaint read, noting that Miranda's car is often seen zipping along the right shoulder, passing rush hour traffic at an excessive rate of speed for the traffic conditions. It is corrupt that everyone else had to sit in traffic, but he can abuse his position to avoid traffic, the complaint to DOI states. He does this at the expense of every other motorist's safety. 6 days later, the DOI complaint was followed up with another claim of Miranda zipping through rush hour traffic with lights and sirens to allow his son to follow behind in his personal vehicle. As the two made their way to the Long Island Expressway, the son was driving an SUV with an advertisement of Miranda's failed 2020 bid for Queens Borough President. Anthony Miranda is abusing his city position to benefit himself as well as his family members, who are now exempted from waiting in traffic like everyone else, the anonymous complaint read. This comes at the time of the safety of all motorists on the highway during rush hour. The drive from Miranda's home to his office with traffic can run between 25 and 45 minutes, which he cuts down by circumventing traffic, a source said. When reached, a DOI spokeswoman declined to comment on the complaints. Miranda did not return a call about the allegations. When reached, Miranda's son declined to talk. Miranda in October was also the subject of a handful of 311 complaints complaining that had taken over the entire dead-end street where his home is located so he could put in a tent and a portable basketball hoop. The items were removed from the dead-end street by the end of the month. The 311 complaints were investigated and dismissed, city officials said. We hold every member of this administration to the highest ethical standards, and we are confident Sheriff Miranda has continued to uphold those standards, a city spokeswoman said. Anyone with concerns can relay their complaints, and as with every complaint, they will be investigated. Yes, sure. City deputy sheriff said they were surprised by Miranda's actions. This is a guy who constantly puts out emails stating, we have to have integrity and never violate the law, the source said. He always tells us that if you know someone doing something wrong, you need to report them. I guess it's do as he says and not what he does. Mayor Adams selected the politically connected Miranda to take over the city sheriff's office in May 2022. Before becoming city sheriff, Miranda was an NYPD sergeant, director of security for the Administration for Children's Services, and longtime head of the National Latino Officers Association. Tensions have run high between the union and Miranda over the past 2 years. The union has lodged more than 30 complaints against Miranda and his executive with the Office of Collective Bargaining, the Public Employee Safety and Health Bureau, the New York Department of Finance's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Office, the State Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the New York City Office of Labor Relations about workplace misconduct. In comparison, the union only filed one labor complaint in the 4 years leading up to Miranda's appointment. Union members claim Miranda has created a hostile work environment that has led to several rank-and-file deputy sheriffs to quit. While city deputy sheriffs are responsible for a host of duties, including issuing court orders and crackdown on illegal cigarette sales, the agency's main mandate under Miranda has been tackling illegal weed shops throughout the 5 boroughs. More than 850 illegal marijuana shops have been shut down since April, when the city executed a multi-agency crackdown of illegal cannabis shops nicknamed Operation Padlock to Protect. Now, look, I don't know what Anthony Miranda's business is. Running around with his car, he's speeding around the town. This is abuse of authority. We've already read about this in regards to Kaz Dodry doing the same thing as an NYPD executive. This is corruption, okay? And the Department of Investigation, which is supposed to oversee this agency, kind of like they're supposed to oversee Kaz Dodry, they don't do anything. I myself filed a complaint against Anthony Miranda in regards to him completely ignoring the fact that he was at Con Sofrito when they had an open-air liquor being served outside, and he's standing there smiling with his pal, Jimmy Rodriguez. The only person that could shut that place down, technically, is Anthony Miranda as the sheriff. Don't mind the NYPD officers and executives that were hanging out in the front that day at this illegal party that ended up being the reason why they shut down. And, of course, Fat Joe was there as well. So, I mean, it's just amazing, this ring of corruption that goes on in New York City. Anthony Miranda should be charged with official misconduct. It's clear and cut day what he's doing. The average guy, let's say you're a New York City police officer and you drive your regular marked car lights without using lights and sirens. If you don't have an emergency, you're using a shoulder, you could get in a lot of trouble. I've seen cops that get severely disciplined, and some of them don't even do this kind of stuff. They say they went through a red light. They say they didn't stop for someone in the sidewalk. They'll get complaints, so that means that they're going to punish them. So why are they not holding the same standard to Anthony Miranda? I guess being a friend of Eric Adams really, really goes far in this really, really corrupt administration. I mean, you have to pray for New York City in general. And, maybe I could just get the key to the city, or you could get the key to the city if you rap about selling drugs like Fat Joe. I mean, I don't know. Isn't that what he sings about, and how the Bronx, how he runs the Bronx, apparently? I mean, who knows? But Anthony Miranda, hopefully he sees his day in court soon. So I did this interview. I want to show you my friend Carlos, and here it is.
Welcome to the Right Rican Show. Just giving people a chance to sign on, and so like that, I'll let Sal introduce himself, and from there, we'll go. Who are you, Sal? What do you do? And Well,
I'm a 14-year veteran of the NYPD. I'm a highly decorated officer, as you can see in the back. Unfortunately, I was terminated, and we're currently in litigation over it. because I was a Trump supporter and I'm a friend of Roger Stone's. That irked people in the police department. They put me through a 19-month witch hunt. I had to go through an administrative trial. They ultimately found, they said I was guilty of associating with Roger Stone. They called him a criminal. Then I ended up suing the NYPD. We're in litigation now. And I've been into, law enforcement, politics, crime and politics. I have my own show. I comment on that kind of stuff. Sal Greco Show, at the Sal Greco Show on YouTube and Rumble. And I'm also here on X at the Sal Greco. Same thing on Instagram and on True Social at Head of the Table. And I do discuss, political things. I also discuss law enforcement, such as the NYPD. I tend to expose people. I don't like corruption, as you know, Carlos. Corrupt people seem to be running New York City right now. And I've highlighted a lot of hypocrisy and corruption, starting with the nightclub that just shuttered that belonged to the police commissioner, the NYPD's brother, Richard Caban, Con Sofrito up in the Bronx, where it's just the hall of felons. What else could I say? It's like every high-end cop was hanging out with a felon. And they're pictured there. The manager, co-owner, he's a self-admitted criminal and a mob associate. This guy, Jimmy Rodriguez, that I don't know what the hell a cop would be doing, even be pictured with the guy. But they were all hanging out there, but yet no one was ever fired, investigated. But I'm a bad guy. So this is the kind of stuff that I would.
Sofrito. That was the one that used to be Jimmy's Bronx Cafe, right?
Yes, that is Jimmy. So that guy, Jimmy, is the creator manager of this place, but the owner on paper is the retired NYPD lieutenant brother of the police commissioner now, Ed Caban. It's funny because, you're right. They're all Puerto Rican. And you're wondering, geez, what the hell's going on? I mean, Fat Joe is always there, another felon. Peter Guns is always there, another felon. This rapper guy, Eric B. These guys. Now, if you want to hang out and do, that's fine. What the hell's the police department doing there? What the hell's the state attorney general doing there? What the hell's the state assembly leader doing there? What the hell's the mayor of New York City doing there? I'm not talking about one time, Carlos. It's like it's all over social media. It was every night, every other night. This one had a fundraiser. This one had a birthday party. And then, Carlos, there's allegations all over the place. There was drug allegation, prostitution allegations, which are on a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit filed by a former officer, Jermac Romero. You can look it up. Romero versus the state of New York, or the city of New York and the NYPD. He makes these allegations on a lawsuit, drugs and prostitution coming out of Consafrito. And then they also had other litigation with the landlord. They had litigation with the state. They weren't paying people their benefits. They weren't paying their employees. I mean, this is like the worst of the worst that you could think of. And it just so happens that the police department's there smiling, taking pictures like there's no problems. Plus, they operated illegally. They had an illegal party shed. So they had a shed in the back for 4 years. The building department deemed it a public safety hazard. They still kept their liquor license. Fire department comes, gives them 20 violations, says it's a fire trap. That's it. You never hear anything again. So they were operating illegally the whole time. And this is stuff you don't really see. I mean, I can understand what you're going to say, Carl. It's the Bronx. But at the same time, in the Bronx, the average guy or a bodega or any of these places that gets one violation, they're going to keep visiting them. Like Mr. Anthony Miranda, the sheriff, the guy that looks like Lurch. He walks around. He was a former sergeant in NYPD, a real piece of work, another friend of Eric Adams. So he's standing there. So they violate court order. The court order stated that they could not have the party shed. They said, that's it. No more. You can't use anything. So they demolished the shed. And then outside, they put other stuff. They put down tables. And now in the parking lot, they turn it into an extension of the restaurant instead of the shed. And then they had an open air alcohol party, which is illegal. And the police department smiling, they're standing. And here's Anthony Miranda next to Jimmy Rodriguez, who, if you look on my X feed, you'll see what just came out about Mr. Miranda, the sheriff, who, by the way, they're appointed in New York City. They're not elected. I know people think that you're thinking about an elected sheriff. No, they're appointed in their revenue agency. They garner revenue. That's all they do for the city. They don't have any enforcement, no enforcement powers. They can't just pull you over, So this guy was standing there when this party was going on. So then what happened is the judge told them, that's it, you're evicted right after that. So this is what's going on. It's like a little microcosm of New York City, but I get terminated saying that I should have never hung around Roger Stone, even though they found no criminal act, nothing. Other than me being his friend and a Trump supporter, who Donald Trump himself, President Trump in my trial, was mentioned numerous times. They had a problem with this, but they have no problem associating with that mob associate over there and all the felons and the criminals that hang out in it. I'm only naming a few. Take a look at yourself. Go look back on the pictures and videos. You'll see what I'm talking about.
No, of course. I mean, I grew up in New York City. I know, I know how the corruption works, and who you have to. It's funny because when Trump ran for president, they got mad at him because what was some of the things he said? Oh, I paid for you guys. I bought you guys. I know how the system. I know how the system works. I know who I have to pay to get stuff done.
Yep,
and that's the way New York is. So I found it funny that
it's always been
that they're always talking about how Trump's a criminal, and now they finally, after all these years, how many years did it take, and how much finagling they had to do to finally charge him with something. They had to extend it. They had to extend the statute of limitations on a crime, and then say it was a felony because he was hiding another crime, but they didn't say what the other crime is.
Yeah.
And then they found him guilty on that. And it's like, wait a minute. So, you have all this corruption going on in New York, but you're going to go after this guy. And that's what people don't get about what's going on in New York. And like New York, California, these are microcosms of what's going on around the country.
Yeah.
When it comes to Democrat cities.
But just, if the cities are mismanaged, because, we're both libertarians here, right? And we lean conservative, but I do speak to some Democrats who they're not like a liberal. They're a moderate. They might have some liberal policies they like, but they also they have conservative policies in them. But they'll tell you themselves that they don't like. I mean, Eric Adams is not well liked. He's the mayor of New York City. This guy's a mess. He's under a federal investigation. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. I could tell you he clearly got a target letter from the FBI. He's been subpoenaed for the grand jury. They're not looking for his devices because they already had taken them a year ago when they stopped him in the street and took all his stuff and gave it back to him. They took all your data, all the text messages. They don't need anything else. He's going to have to testify, and there's subpoenas all over the place. All I can tell you is it's high-ranking people all around them, people that work for him, people that are in his administration, people I understand they're in the police department, and we really don't know what this is about. It's, yes, the Turkish embassy, there was stuff with Turkey, but there's a lot more here. They don't just hand you subpoena for something like that. They're never going to tell you until the moment comes. That's how it works.
Especially, you're talking about, and it's a DOJ that's run by Democrats.
Yes. Well, the Southern District of New York, I'll tell you this thing, the head of it right now is a guy by the name of Damian Williams. He's a baby face. First of all, he's African-American, so I don't want to hear Eric Adams say they're picking on me because it's race. Then you see him, and he's like a baby face killer. He's a nice, like a quiet guy. He's got this smooth baby face, and he's already gotten Bob Menendez guilty. He's got a couple other cases he found, a couple other guilty convictions. And now he's looking at Eric Adams. He's a guy that when you're in his sights, he's got to get you. He's going to convict you. And he's a public corruption specialist, which is what these guys are supposed to do. So he's a guy that in a Democrat administration seems to be doing his job, and he's actually going after Democrats. It's not Republicans. He got rid of the big donor. Remember, what's his name? Sam Bankman-Fried. He charged him, and he tried to wiggle his way out, the DOJ, and then he charged him with the right charges that got him convicted. See, he's a very smart guy.
Didn't they win on appeal? I thought they won on appeal.
No, he won. He switched. He flipped the original charges, and then he got him convicted on separate charges because all they did was what they did is you throw the book at somebody. And then, you might be able to get some charges to run, but he wasn't able to get rid of all the charges. So Sam Bankman-Fried was found guilty of everything that Damian Williams brought forward afterwards. So he's a kind of guy that, listen, he knows the game very well. And I'm telling you, he's like a babyface killer. And the more notches he has under his belt, the bigger his profile is, whether he sticks around in the Southern District or he sticks around with the DOJ or goes into private practice. He's going to become a big-time attorney, no matter how you look at it. But, again, these guys, all public officials, Sam Bankman-Fried wasn't, but he was involved with them, and they all corrupt people.
Oh, yeah, no, he's the crypto guy, right? That's, I think that's what it was.
That was a big crypto guy.
He was a crypto guy.
And he knows Eric Adams well, too. That's the other thing. These guys seem to all know each other somehow.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
But all right, I'm going to pivot to this story that we were talking before we went live. Talk about this story because I found this really interesting. I could talk New York politics all day, even though I don't live there no more.
I know.
I mean,
I'm exposing these guys. That's the thing, I get a lot of information coming my way.
No, that's good. You got to do it. People, the mainstream media is not going to do it.
Oh no, they wouldn't write the right. They never write the right thing. They always write half truths. Or they're trying to. I think they're afraid of being sued. That's what it is. They think everything's a lawsuit. They're afraid.
No, I don't. You know what? I think you give them too much credit. I think it's kind of like with the mainstream media is just the fact that they have their bias. And they let their bias influence what they're going to report. Oh, like right now. Oh, well, we can't report that news on Kamala Harris because it might get people to vote for Trump if we tell the truth about how her plan is basically right out of Venezuela and Cuba.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's sick. Her plans. Those policies are crazy, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to there, but. Here, one of the big stories of today is that RFK reportedly expected to bow out and may endorse Trump. Now, the big news about this is they're talking about if he'll endorse Trump if he gives him some high position. And I'm going to show you this clip because here's Kennedy's going to address the nation on Friday. I want to play this short clip. I already saw it, but I want to play it for you and get your take on this.
John, you said pedal to the metal. There's been some pretty remarkable news over the last 24 hours about RFK Jr. saying, Trump's the way, and we may drop out and join the Trump campaign, join forces. Can you please comment on that?
Yeah, listen, I'd love to see it. I know RFK, I know some of that team. Don't agree with everything, but I think he'd actually be a great person to put on certain agencies and just let him do the town. Let him blow stuff up. Let him fix the stuff. I mean, he's incredibly well on a lot of things, and understandably, like me and like my family, probably has a gripe with some of the government, and could actually, that's a solid motivation to actually get things done. But it also shows some unity that I'd love to see. On these tickets, guys that they agree on everything, saying we understand the common goal is to prevent communism, socialism from taking over our country. And they're going to make sure we take your kids away if you don't let them go through transgender surgery or that parental consent. It's like these people are lunatics. And so if you see, that kind of, coming together to fight a common enemy, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest threat to democracy. I think RFK probably agrees, and then you said that. And then it was about Biden, but there is no light between Biden and Harris. According to their own press secretary, Marie Jean-Pierre, who said there's no light between the policies. So the policies have failed. They're taking us down a bad path. So I think it would be an incredible thing, and I'd love to see it.
So just on a closing note here, RFK Jr. for CIA director. Come on. We got Mike Walls right here. He's on the television committee.
I thought that was hilarious at the end there because imagine that. Imagine him as CIA, the director, and he gets to, declassify the records of what they did to his uncle and his father.
And his father, yeah. I wouldn't have a problem with that. The only thing is, I think he really wants to be the head of the Health Human Services.
I still think he'd be better at that anyway.
Yeah,
I just thought that was funny, CIA director, but no, I think HHS would be much, much better.
Yeah, and I think he's a lawyer by trade, but I think he's not a lawyer like a legal. I don't think he handled criminal cases. I don't think that.
No, he did environmental law.
Exactly. That's why I think he's better suited in the other position. But I would welcome him with open arms in a Trump administration, because here's a guy who's an independent. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat, but he means well. I know sometimes he says crazy things. Sometimes Trump says crazy things. So it's, they kind of have the same kind of personality. And I do think that RFK would be, that might sway some independents and some other voters to say, hey, that guy would be excellent in that administration. You know why? Because I could see him being front and center and talking about those issues that back in the day, I know people had a lot of problems with the vaccine and all this other stuff. And here comes RFK, could be the head of all of that. And then he'll just tell everybody what really happened.
I have a vaccine injured son, so I know.
See, exactly. So see, he takes over, and he's going to release all these people who are running for the Hill. Because remember, they could also recommend charges. Mm-hmm. And then when you control the DOJ, you're not going to see this, partisan. We're only going to go after people we believe were on the lawn at a certain location at a certain day a few years ago. We're going to actually start investigating real crimes. So I'm telling you, if he wants to be, I think it's a nice little old day to him for the CIA director, but HHS director is better.
No, I thought that was funny, but in reality, that's where I'd want him. Like I said, as a parent of a vaccine injured child, mm-hmm. I would definitely love to see him clean that stuff up.
I believe he's injured. He had a vaccine injury himself, because his voice, I believe it happened off an injury. His voice changed.
I don't think it was a vaccine injury. I think it's because he had a couple of different weird things. I forgot because he had brain worms at one point. He said,
"Yeah, he definitely had surgery because his voice
had some parasite." But I forgot what it was. But it wasn't a vaccine though. That I know. I would have remembered that.
I'll tell you one thing. He's a very smart guy though. He's very smart.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm all for. I hope that they do cut that deal, because Kamala will not welcome him anyway.
Well, this is the crazy thing, and you know what? I laugh about this. I did a video about this, and I go, "What's more radical, or what's more extreme, a New York Republican or a San Francisco Democrat?" And it's like, let's be realistic. It's like, look at some people. Tulsi Gabbard, who ran for Democratic presidential nomination, is endorsing Trump now. Now Kennedy comes and endorses Trump now. It's like, how are they going to keep getting away with painting MAGA or Republicans as extremists when you have and label Trump far right, when you have all these different people supporting him?
Well, yeah, listen, like they like to say far right, but you have to understand far right. Anybody can support anyone. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that this group that people call radicals will say far right, they tend to trend in Trump's direction. They also tend to, they might not like Trump. A lot of them are, like I said, they're radicals. But anyone's allowed to support anybody in this country. It's not like, the guy's right away, he's a far right, then a MAGA, and it's a cult. And I could almost see everything that people say. You want to call it a cult. You want to say it's a following. I could understand when they say that stuff. But then I look at, okay, well, when you point a finger there, I'm going to look at you, and what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So those people right now, they're in Chicago outside screaming about Palestine. Mind you, I believe 80 to 90% of them do not have one Arabic descendancy in their body.
Ask them what river to the sea means. They don't know what river, and they don't know what sea.
No, because they're not Arabic. They're misguided, predominantly Caucasian children, we'll call them. They're under 20, 21, kind of like Woodstock. They don't know where they are. Hey, we're just happy we're here.
Well, the problem is that they're college educated, and as someone who went to college too, lucky I didn't get brainwashed. They teach you this stuff. They teach you, this, because Israel is stronger than Palestine, so they're the oppressors, and the Palestinians are the oppressed. But they forget about the rest of the Middle East.
Yep,
is all Arabs, and none of the Arab states want to take these Palestinians in.
No, because they're radicals.
Because they come in, they go in, and that's the whole thing. Like Egypt closed the border, Jordan closed the border because the Palestinians that come to Jordan mess shit up, and nobody talks about it.
And now what we're saying, we mentioned the groups, right? So I said this group of people that are, destroying Chicago right now, I would say these people belonged to that party, and now they're rebelling against them because, when you create a monster, it could rebel against you. Frankenstein would come to mind. Yeah. So your Frankenstein is now rebelling against you. And they're like, what is this?
Well, that's what happens when you run on identity politics.
Yeah,
it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. This is why I always tell people, I go, you shouldn't, you're asking for, and I understand as a Latino and blacks where they'll ask for, what are you going to do for us? But the problem with that is, no. If you're saying you're going to do for one group, then the problem with doing that is you're going to alienate everybody else.
Yes.
Where you want someone who's going to make a policy that's going to be good for all Americans.
Everyone.
Not just Latinos, not just blacks, not just Italians, for everybody.
It's got to be for everybody. Otherwise, it's not equal. That's what the whole country was built on. Everybody it's one nation under God, indivisible. It's because it's supposed to be one rule, one law. Everybody has a chance. It's not, there's a chance for just those three people over there, not the three people to the left. But we were just stating how the radicalness, right? So these people, and you just mentioned Palestine, how nobody wants them. And if you really break it down, not even the people that identify as Palestinians or the people in the Gaza Strip, once again, they have their own group of radicals. That is the Hamas section of these people. And these are people that they just don't care. They'll kill their own. They don't care. They will go into Gaza and kill their own people because that's their ideology.
Well, they use them as human shields. They put their bombs in hospitals and schools, and then when Israel bombs them, oh my God, you bombed the school. Why did you have weapons? Why did you have missiles in the school?
Mm-hmm. And people don't want to say that, but your problem with the Palestinians is not them; it's that group. There's a small percentage of them, but like one rotten apple, could it spoil a tree? It depends. People say that there's always a rotten apple in every tree. You're right, but is that one rotten apple, can it spoil the whole tree? And this is the same thing with Hamas inside of Palestine. So that radical group that's in Palestine is what's ruining everything. And they're crazy. They will shoot, they'll kill. They don't care about life. So how do you decipher who from who? Because these people are living in fear. They're afraid of being a snitch. But at the same time, these people are animals. I mean, look, they'll rape a man, they'll rape a woman, they'll kill you. They don't care. You understand? They have no moral values.
You also got to understand it's part of their religion. That's the whole thing. With people, most people don't understand because they don't realize that one of the how would I say it? One of their beliefs is that in order for the end times to come, they have to kill all the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
So their end time can't come until all the Jews are killed.
Yeah, they have. What it is the way it was explained to me by one of my friends. The actual Muslim religion versus I think it's a Shiite and a Sunni. There's two different versions. These guys, this pack of people, Hamas, take that, I guess, whatever, Sunni, the Sunni version.
The Sunni and Shiite, And yeah, I mean, you have other the Sufism and
this is what they start to do. They start to blur the lines. So they take this version and then apply the rules and start making their own in between. And here you go, voila, that's what we believe in. That's Hamas. So that whole throwing people off the rooftop, that's technically not in the religion, but it's in their version of whatever the hell it is they're trying to push. So that's these people, this Hamas, Hezbollah, this little group of radicals that, I mean, it's actually a larger group than you think together. That's what they believe in. They do that. They're crazy. You understand? They don't believe in anything. So that's what you're fighting. It's a radicalization. Not much.
The problem is, like when I usually have these conversations, what I usually tell people is the problem is, you know, people talk about, oh, well, Christianity had its violent past, and it's like, yeah, but we had a Reformation.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is Islam was never allowed to have a Reformation. They've been fighting basically for as long as their religion has existed. They fought the battle of Sunni Shiite, because I don't know if you know the simplistic, the separation is one believes that was it? I forget which one is which, but one believes that the cousin of Muhammad is the successor, and the other one was like his friend.
Yep, I read that. Which is, see what I mean? What they believe and what was written is two different things, but they blur the lines like everything else. You know, I go back to another culture. You know, the infamous Nazis there in Germany. They had their own belief system. It wasn't Christianity. It was some crazy religion where they put this ring with a skull, and it had to be burnt in fire. They had this castle that's in the middle of nowhere that was like outside of the town, and you could still visit it, and you could see where they would do this. So they believed in their own crazy religion that never existed. That everything you heard them say, none of it was true, because none of it ever existed. That blonde hair, blue eyes, where was this written? No, it was never written anywhere. So that's what I'm saying. These guys take something and then make it their own, whatever. This is their philosophy, aka religion, and they're going to run with it. And that's the problem we're seeing, because the regular, we'll call them Palestinian, but the Arabs that live in Gaza, who are not far from Israel, vice versa, they go and visit each other. But this group, which, again, how do you decipher the Hamas guy and the Palestinian? Because they're living over there, and they're using these people as shields and their little base of operations with the schools and the hospital. That's your problem. So people need to see that. So when you hear them screaming in the street, which some rich, entitled Caucasian family, their child that's screaming this stuff and has no idea what they're talking about, they need a better understanding of what we're saying right now. They just have a cause they see and they want to jump on it.
Yeah, no, because that once again, like I said, they have that, you know, anti-Western mentality of, you know, if you don't have power, you're oppressed. So the whole oppressed narrative that they've learned in college, that's where they learn it in university, and it's sad, you know, it's what they call, you know, the Soviets used to call useful idiots.
Yeah. Yep. And I listen, I agree with everyone's right to protest peacefully, but I cannot wrap my brain around this, because whenever I look at it, I go right back in a circle. I see a lot of people that are just lost souls, and they're just doing this.
The funniest ones are the ones like gays for Palestine and queers for Palestine.
Oh,
where I just go, I'm like, you really don't know what you know. I'm like, try doing that over there and see what happens.
Yeah,
it won't be
doing
pretty.
that over there.
It won't be pretty.
You know, if they have a problem with this, then why don't you take a flight over there and see how that works out for you? What are you doing that here? You're not changing anything in America. That's not going to change what's going on thousands of miles away, which is the core issue, is what's going on over there. And guess what? They don't really want America involved in that either. You don't hear Israel. All they're saying is, let us handle this. Yeah. And everybody's trying to get involved. You can't. Oh, they want to make it a political issue, when really Let those two nations, or I mean, if Palestine's even considered one, let them talk amongst themselves. I think they know it better than us. I mean, they've been around a lot longer than America or anything else.
Look at it. Trump's policies were working in the Middle East.
Yep.
You know, the Abraham Accords were helping force the cooperation between Israel and like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and you know, given that chance, it would have. You know, if Trump is president right now, that conflict is probably not happening right now.
I have this conversation with a friend of mine all the time, and I said, I'm going to go back in those 4 years. Did you hear about any of this stuff? Oh, but this little thing, I'm saying, he said some journalist had his head cut off or something back in Saudi Arabia. I go, was Israel fighting Gaza, those people in Gaza? No. Was there any conflict with Ukraine and Russia? No. Well, Venezuela, you heard a lot, but nobody was making a move.
No.
Right? You didn't see Venezuela, you know.
He went to Korea with Kim Jong-il.
Yeah, and they said, oh, well, he shook hands with a dictator. You know something? Shaking hands with that guy and trying to make nice showed the world that, you know something? Maybe there could be a solution where we could just all try to get some kind of civil discourse here. And they stopped doing anything, right? They weren't doing anything because he wasn't trying to do, Kim Jong-un wasn't doing anything. And the minute he left, here we go. It's right back to the same old nonsense.
Yeah.
They assassinated the former president of South Korea. You see China right away wants to attack, was that
Taiwan.
So Taiwan, they want to attack Taiwan. Ukraine, Russia went in there. They went right for Ukraine again. Now you have this conflict starting up again. Now you have the people marching in the street. First it was Black Lives Matter. Then it was Occupy Wall Street. Now it's Free Palestine. It has nothing to do with this country. So it's, you know, it's the leadership here is the problem, because the president of the United States has a lot to say. He or she will say, she, whenever that would be, would hold the big stick, right? So what are they doing to try to quell this? Joe Biden's what? He's partying in California, or he's sleeping right now in California. That's your problem. And Kamala Harris, whose policies would probably destroy this country, what is she doing other than cackling and smiling? She wasn't even at her own convention last night.
Well, who was it? Dan Bongino had a interesting take about that. He said the reason that she wasn't there was because she didn't want to piss off Biden, because the Obamas were speaking. Because basically, as much as they pretend on TV that they like each other, Biden and Obama can't stand each other.
Nope. I'm telling you that this whole thing, everybody doesn't get along behind the scenes. They don't like each other. It's a bunch of fugazis. Look, I mean, Eric Adams is going there. I don't know what the hell he thought he was going to speak. I don't know what planet he's on. And he's definitely in the world of Adams. He's in a different world where crime is down, jobs are up. The city's not surviving, it's thriving. They're just taking killings, rapings down the street from Gracie Mansion. Central Park is out of control. You have bodies showing up left and right, just popping up on a city street. Yeah, crime is down. It's doing great. It's the perception. The perception.
Yeah, the perception. Yeah. You know, my parents live in the Lower East Side. You know how many times I hear shootings going on in the Lower East Side? Almost, almost as bad as when I grew up there in the 80s.
That's because, the city's not surviving; it's thriving. You didn't know that? Every day he has a new saying. You know, all his haters become waiters at his table of success. You didn't know that?
And then he changed the garbage cans and made everyone pay for them
for $5 million. That was. Oh no, $4 million. A $4 million survey for a year from Harvard University to find out the most simplest thing that an idiot could have told them. Yeah, just send the garbage bins so that the building has to buy one. Since where did the garbage go? In a bin, right? That's where it belongs. But so the building could buy the bins. So, but he had it where now they have to buy it from a certain company.
Yeah.
You see, but he didn't know this until he spent $4 million of the city's money in their budget for a survey from Harvard University. So These are the things this guy does. It's really irritating. But the New York City taxpayer, look, you need to do as much research as humanly possible to make an informative decision on who you're going to vote for. If it was me, I lived in New York City, say what you want, I'd vote for Curtis Lewa. Not because I know him, not because he's on my side. The guy knows every issue in New York City right now. Ask him and he knows about it. And he has a solution. Eric,
I have
with no plan.
I have a Silva story because, like I said, I grew up in the Lower East Side in the 80s. So I remember him with the red beret and everything growing up.
Yeah.
And I had told my mother, I said, who you voting for? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, don't you remember that Guardian Angels guy that, from back in the day? And she goes, yeah, I remember. And then she goes, oh, he's running? Okay, I'm going to go vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
She comes back later. I go, oh, so you voted? Did you get to vote for Silva? She goes, no, I voted Adams.
Oh, God.
What the hell? She goes, Silva's a Republican. I said, so what? I said, so what? You voted for Giuliani?
It's infuriating. It really is. I think that in New York City, they should get away with what party you belong to, and on a ballot, just put a name.
Yeah.
Because I think that would eliminate a lot of people because you're brainwashed in New York City that Republicans are scum. It's just in you. It's out there. Everybody.
New York. It's not just New York City. It's all across the country. So it's like in every Democrat city, it's like Republicans are shit.
If I look on a ballot and say Curtis Lee was running for mayor, no party, and Eric Adams is running with no party, who are you going to vote for? No party. It just says a name. I think that's the way New York City should operate, and other cities might have to adapt that.
I think most places should run like that because I think the biggest problem is you have these low information voters that don't know what's going on, and then they vote.
That's the Eric Adams crowd. Eric Adams caters especially to low information voters.
Yeah, well, that's what scares me. Like right now with the coming presidential election, is like people don't underestimate how stupid people are in this country when it comes to.
You were showing Kamala Harris, right? So Kamala Harris's policy. This is basically what I get out of her. Vote for me. I'm black. January 6th. Let's not forget that.
I started being black a couple of years ago.
Yeah. It was the worst. January 6th is the worst day. It's worse than Pearl Harbor. You have to exfoliate any Republican and Trump for that reason. Trump is a bad guy. And by the way, I'm going to raise the corporate tax to 28% so that every company runs away from this country and we are finished economically. We'll have no businesses here.
Everybody's going to move their companies overseas.
But Trump, Trump changed that, but now he's been gone. So this woman wants to raise she'll destroy this country. It was at 30. Remember when the Trump was 35%? He changed it to 21.
Yeah, and then they're talking about passing a law on a tax on unrealized gains, where most people they're like, "What the hell is that? What's unrealized gain?" Well, let's say let's just keep it simple. Let's say you have a house. You own your house. Your house costs, you paid $500,000 for the house. In 5 years, now the house, because of inflation, the house is worth $1 million. Guess what? You have $500,000 in unrealized gains. They're going to tax you. They want to tax you on that $500,000. How are you going to pay taxes on $500,000 you don't have?
Yeah.
They want to make it seem like it's just for the millionaires and the billionaires, but that's how the income tax started in the first place.
No, but when they say we don't like the millionaires, the 1%, but they are the 1%. That's the problem. Kamala Harris is worth millions. Bernie Sanders is worth millions. Shame on Vermont. You keep voting for that guy. You should all, maybe spend a week in a mental asylum, check yourselves out. That guy is laughing at you. He's worth millions. I think people really sometimes are just they don't have a brain. They're mindless. Kind of like the people that are screaming free Palestine. They're just mindless souls. Those people in Vermont maybe were mindless their whole life. They've been a lost soul their whole life. How do you vote for that man who's, I don't know what he's done for Vermont, but he's clearly a very rich man screaming about rich people, then I want him to arrest himself, even though he's 80 years old, because he's a thief. You know, he's had all these houses. He's had his campaign finance disclosures. There's all kinds of questionable tactics on there. So he should investigate himself, arrest himself, and throw himself out of office if you use his logic. The 1% is Bernie Sanders. It is Barack Obama. It is Kamala Harris. They live like very rich people. Michelle Obama makes millions of dollars just to show up to an event, which is why she won't ever run for president. She won't give up the money, but she'll be quick to try to play the, black people, this one, that one. She's catering to the, once again, low information people. That's what they cater to. They love those people. Vote for me, I'm black. Vote for me because Fat Joe Felon said so. Yo, 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 keep it real, or whatever the hell his song is. And then we all sing his damn song and you vote for the guy. Meanwhile, again, they're rich, laughing at you, and they're going to crush you. That's the club. You're not in it. But nobody, wake up. Low information. That's what they go for. The ones that love
I'm trying to
hang
pull
out
up
at the nightclub all night. You know, that's the kind of crowd you want.
I think it was the Daily Wire. I'm trying to pull it up. Since you talked about Michelle Obama, there was a little short reel, maybe 30 seconds. If I could pull it up I saw it on Instagram, so I'm trying to bring up Instagram right now. But
yeah, I saw that too. I think I put it up myself, or it was on my story. What she was saying? Like, she sounds.
But she was talking about her father. Her father said, "What was it?" She said her father said that don't trust people who take more than they need.
Yeah, well, shit.
And she said that, and then they were they flashed to, their $12 million house in Martha's Vineyard, their $8 million house in DC, their $8 million house in Hawaii, and then they showed her shoes were $2,000, her dress was $3,000, and it's really, don't trust people who take too much.
Yeah, if you don't look at Michelle Obama's history, she didn't grow up poor. She was middle class and upwards. She dressed very fancy when she went to school, and I think her father was even a lawyer. They were, they're very smart people. You look at her history, and she started changing the way she dressed in order to fit the narrative, or whatever she was going to start to cater to. Again, target the low information people. Start dressing like them. Start trying to, channel with them. That's the equivalent of Trump saying, okay, he's not going to wear a suit. He's going to put a Fat Joe shirt on and start rapping lyrics and saying how great, let's say, I'm the swagger president. And next thing you know, he's so hip. He's so, you got these people like that. I love wrestling. I'll equate something to wrestling. The fans love Cody Rhodes, right? Or they're cheering for him. He's a great guy. He's a great wrestler, great guy on camera, great guy on the mic. He reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior. He's the champion right now, and I guarantee you they're going to show you the statistics. The money man is Roman Reigns. He gets the bigger reaction. People flock to him. His shirts sales are number one. He's the Hulk Hogan of this time. Whether the people like the Hulk Hogan or not, he's the biggest grossing gain in the history of wrestling. That's
when I actually used to watch wrestling. I was going to ask that Rhodes guy, is he related to the old
Dusty
wrestler?
Rhodes' son. He's Dusty Rhodes' son. And I think he's a great wrestler, and he could probably wrestle forever. I think, but he's very smart. I've heard him speak. They laugh. I think Roman Reigns
his other son was a wrestler too.
Yes, Dustin, which was Goldust. The other son. So, but watching him, Roman Reigns said it, and I wonder if it has any future in it. But he said Dusty's like a politician. Cody's like a Dusty is a politician. Cody, he dresses like a politician. I said, so he kind of looks like he's very smart. I want to see how he is politically. The guy might actually have a future. I don't know if he could carry the company though. You look at him, and then you see Roman Reigns, and it's like. Roman Reigns looks like he came down from heaven, down from a mountain. He looks like a Roman, like a real Roman guy, like an emperor. That's what he looks like, and people flock to that. And he's the kind of guy you would carry the company. If you listen to the fans, they were cheering for Cody to win And sometimes, I miss Vince McMahon. I know he used to say something. I don't care who they cheer for. I know better than them. And he ran the company and he made it a $9 billion. It was worth $9 billion up until when he sold it. He knows what he's doing for a reason. Because these people, they're like low information guy. I want to root for the little guy, but he doesn't have enough equity in him to carry the load for a long period of time. This guy, Roman Reigns, did it for 4 years. He was the top guy on the card. Whenever he showed up, the places were like beyond packed and it was making money. And I like to equate that to other things. This is looking at that model where I'm going to go back 30 something years ago when at 1990, when Hogan, they wanted him to pass the torch to the Ultimate Warrior and it was a disaster. It was just a complete disaster. The guy was, he was all like, people loved the Ultimate Warrior. He had a great gimmick. He ran down in the ring, stripped the ring. He was out of gas. And I'm like, oh, man. I was a little kid seeing this. I go, why did Hogan not the champ? This guy's no good. And then eventually they took the belt off of him. And every time they tried to go, they went back to the Warrior. It was a disaster. The guy couldn't carry the company. He's a 5-second thing. Took a 5-second clip. People go crazy. And then you see past that and go, oh, man, is this bad? Hogan had it all. He connected with the fans. He knew how to talk to people. Hogan. And Hulk Hogan, that's what made him what he is today. He was the man that carried the ball as long as he could. Then he passed it off to The Rock or whatever. And The Rock is another guy who he transcends wrestling and he could carry it. But these other guys, Cody Rhodes, can't do it. So now I'm going to equate that back to this. You have the same. Here we go again with what we were talking about. Who could carry the ball and who could carry the load and whether they have it or not. Low information people can't make if they make the final decision, we're in trouble, which is why we go back to Bernie Sanders. Those are the people that would tell you Cody Rhodes was better off beating Roman Reigns, finishing the story. Finishing the story has now turned into what? Roman Reigns came out for SummerSlam during the main event and the roof came off of it. Meanwhile, the guy who's the champion is standing in the ring. So that tells you made a mistake. You gave this guy a chance, and the people are rejecting him and want the real guy back, which is Roman Reigns. See, so that's what I'm saying. Low information people were cheering for him. Meanwhile, the real wrestling fan like me told you, don't do it. It's a mistake. Don't do it. Don't do it. They did it anyway. So same thing here. We're going to go. I know it's a little long.
It's okay.
Trajectory, but I'm trying to make it people understand. The low information people will hurt you. These are the people, like I said, Bernie Sanders or the Democrat, they just vote no matter what. They're mindless. Yep. You have to make an informative decision.
Yep.
Or you end up with a Bernie Sanders. He's a millionaire.
That's why, I was having an argument with a friend of mine who's a Republican, and I told him this is why I'm against universal mail-in ballots. Because if you're too lazy to get your ass off your chair and go vote, you don't deserve to vote. And
I think you should just vote. Early voting is another thing. Is you actually have to go to the poll and do it.
Yes. I think
drop off mail in. Other than
I don't like that. And I think that election day needs to be a holiday. This is bullshit that people have to take off from work or leave early. No, it should be a federal holiday where everybody's off for the most part. Except essential services, and people get to vote. If June 19th is now a holiday, why can't Election Day be a holiday? I agree with you right there. I think that, it's only fair, then if we have 1 day of voting, let's say you could do the early, I think early voting should be it shouldn't be too long. I lived in Texas for a couple of years and early voting already started for the election, and it's it's a little too early. I think let's say if you're undecided, are you really going to go vote right now anyway? No. What if something happens between now and the election that maybe changes your vote? Do you really want to go vote now? Yeah. Well, I've done the early voting only to beat the election day crowds. So no, I don't have a problem with let's say for example, if we do a week or two of early voting, so that you can beat the crowd. You don't have to be there, or I'm not one of those people. Oh no early voting. No. I don't mind the early voting. I just don't think it should be 3 months before the election. It's like 2 weeks. That sounds about right.
And I want to know how they used to be able to count all the ballots in one night, and now it takes a week, 2 weeks. This is a scam.
Because they need to know how many votes they need to procure
correct.
And
find their mail-in ballots, which is a scam. That's why mail-in ballots should be annihilated. They should just get rid of it. You know why mail-in ballots were in place was because military people overseas. Yes. How could they vote? A mail-in ballot.
And also, that
doesn't mean
handicap.
You as a citizen that runs in your house, why do you need a mail-in ballot? You can just go and vote early.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because here in Pennsylvania, what is it here? So after the court battle, the Pennsylvania judge affirmed that incomplete mail-in ballots without required secrecy envelopes will not be counted.
That's good. That's another scam they had. Pennsylvania, your problem is you have like 3 counties to watch. Obviously, Philadelphia. I think the other one is Harrisburg, and there's one more county. It was 3 counties.
I'm trying to forget what Pittsburgh. It's not.
Pittsburgh. Right, there you go. Pittsburgh.
But I forget what their the county of Pittsburgh is.
Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia are the 3 counties where Philadelphia is the most corrupt one, but the other 2 counties are once again.
Well, Harrisburg's not that big, but Pittsburgh. It's mainly Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Yeah,
especially the outlying suburbs of the.
I want you to watch on election night. The votes start coming in, and then you'll see that for whatever reason, these counties always take forever because they're watching the other counties to see where they have to put. I said that 4 years ago, and I said he was ahead in Pennsylvania. I looked at Philadelphia. I go, I don't like this. And then 4 years prior, 8 years ago with Hillary Clinton, I looked at the state and I realized I was doing numbers. And I said, looking at what's left, even if every single vote, which won't be many, because I was counting the counties, that's not enough for Hillary Clinton to win the state. He's gonna win by the skin of his teeth in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, I said. And I knew it. But Philadelphia didn't have their final total for like forever. And they were holding up the state because they were trying to figure out how to cover they didn't see that coming.
No.
And 4 years later, they thought of the ultimate scheme. Yep. Oh, mail-in ballots, this, that. And then again, they were holding off in Philadelphia. Why? Why is Philadelphia so late? They have the most people. They probably have the most people working at the polls. They probably have their population is probably more so than the other counties like Bucks County, all these other counties. So why do you not? Why can't you have a tally by the end of the night? Why does it take days? And why are you the last county to count votes? And you see the clock, and it's like, all right, well, Trump's ahead. It was 20,000, so Philadelphia only has 95%, and so now we got to cover those 20,000 the next 5, and then you start to see what's going on. You'll see it again. That's what I'm saying. You're worried about something like that happening again because they did it. They tried to do it the first time. It didn't work. They did it last time. They were successful. What I'm saying. You have to watch the screen. I like watching Pennsylvania and also Nevada. You have to watch Clark County.
Well, what you're going to see is also is the Rust Belt. Like Ohio's going to go Trump, but the question will be Michigan and Wisconsin.
Well, Michigan again, it's Detroit. What's Detroit going to do? See, that's again, it's
the question is what's going to happen. It's going to be basically the union versus the workers because the union elite, are Democrats, but the rank and file
are blue collar Republicans,
blue collar people. Yep. So are those blue collar people going to listen to the unions, or they're going to listen to their, to basically what happened before Trump left office? Because the whole EV push for electric vehicles is going to kill the American auto industry.
I like to see that though. Because people just know. I mean, when I was terminated, I went through my whole ordeal. The union did very little to even. Once you're deemed misfit by the union, they pretty much say, okay, well, he's going to get terminated anyway. Like that's how they talk behind the scenes. Once they deem you that, they're not going to be there to help you. Or are you the son of someone? Are you a relative of someone? Yep. Then they come and help you. I never cared much for the union. I see why you need them. At the same time, I don't see why you yourself would go to them, because they seem to, it's like an arbitrary group. It's going to help a certain amount of guys.
I don't like public sector unions. I don't mind unions in general because some places need them. But the problem with, let's say with the police, the teachers, the firefighters, sanitation, all these.
It's arbitrary. They only help out their friends.
Well, it's not only that, but it's taxpayer money. You're paying salaries with taxpayer money. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're negotiating against a private company. You're negotiating against our tax dollars. So it's like, you could agree to give the fire department a 20% raise, but whose taxes are you raising to do that?
Yeah, they don't. Those unions never care as long as they make money, because that's all they care about.
Because they don't care either, because they're getting the money from their from the union members. Mm-hmm. They're getting their dues, so they don't give a shit.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's a lot of these big cities.
That's the reason why, people be like, "Oh, why are you so anti-union?" I'm not anti-union. Like where my wife works, they're in a desperate need of a union, because that job gets away with a bunch of bullshit that they do, like stuff that they shouldn't be able to get away with. But because there's no union, there's no one to complain to.
I know, and it won't help you.
No, nope, not at all. But I think that's a good place to leave it, because we're going on an hour.
I am getting one last thing here. I see that Fat Joe got the key to the city. So someone just sent me that. Eric Adams. Remember, the last person Eric Adams gave the key to the city to was Puff Daddy. How'd that go? How'd that work out? Fat Joe. Oh, look at this article. Yeah. New subpoenas. This is a major problem for him. Okay. Like I said, when they stopped this guy in the middle of the street not too long ago, the feds came and said, "Give me your phones, give me all this stuff." And they already had all his information. Then they raided two people that were very close to him. They're prolific fundraisers for him. So then they also found out through a lawsuit that was a civil suit by a firefighter who was suing the FDNY. They found out that they were speeding up inspections and Department of Buildings like paperwork for the Turkish embassy. In the Turkish embassy, there was a go-between, a businessman who was part of the Turkish government. And apparently Eric is not only friends with that guy, he went to Turkey. He knows Erdogan. He knows his son. He went back to Turkey. He was flying on a plane. The Turkish government paid for it. That's a nightmare. But there's more. His aide, Timothy Pearson, was there. Timothy Pearson was in 4 federal sexual harassment lawsuits, and he clearly is an aide that also has a say in the NYPD. This guy is a mess. He also has a sexual assault lawsuit, Eric Adams, on a woman. He says, "I don't know her." Meanwhile, she worked with him. She was a police assistant when he was a sergeant in Coney Island in the transit district. And then later on, he was in Brooklyn. In Manhattan, he was with her in a Central Records division. And they were part of the Transit Guardians, not the NYPD Guardians. They know each other. And he keeps saying he doesn't know her. She has a whole story of what he did. He wanted her to do something. Apparently, he ejaculated all over her in a car. This is crazy. This guy, and then
I heard underneath the story.
Him, but the story here is that Eric Adams aides and friends in the police department, Jeffrey Madry, the chief of department, who has a sexual assault and harassment history, but he's still there. And you hear these things about Eddie Caban as a police commissioner. He's covering up this stuff. You have John Schell, the chief of patrol, Kaz Dordry, who's Jeffrey Madry's goons. They're there. They were also protecting Jeffrey Madry. So you have a history of this stuff with Eric Adams. And it's funny because he's being sued, and it's like, well, he can't fire these people because apparently he just loves doing it either himself or he's all for it. Let's see the process go through. But you know something? Kamala Harris, like I've been saying, Eric Adams is there tonight. He's lobbying for his party. He's desperate to get pardoned. He's all over the place looking for his pardon. Kamala Harris should rescind her endorsement from Eric Adams. She should condemn him because he smeared a woman that clearly there's something there because she knows him. He says, I don't know her. So then I thought he believed all women. And then finally, she should also come out and say, if I became president, no matter what happens, if he's either charged or indicted, I will not pardon Eric Adams. I will see the process go through because I do not want to interfere with the Department of Justice investigation. If she doesn't do that, she's just as fugazi as the rest of them.
No, that, I read the details about what this lady was saying, and it's like, she, what was it? He asked for oral. That's what it was.
Yep. It's some sick stuff. It's like, come on.
I'm like, as a man who's a father, a brother, a husband, that's fucking disgusting. I'd want to, beat the shit out of someone who tried to do that to any of my female relatives.
Here's the worst part is, don't worry, the New York City taxpayers illegally paying for his defense. We never got a letter from the city under GML 50K2. They have to tell you why they're representing him for something like this, because I didn't know that sexual assault now falls under the scope of duties of a police officer or a New York City employee. That's technically official misconduct for anyone to be representing him without telling the public why. We don't want to know what his defense is. We don't know the reasons of why are you paying? Why are the taxpayers paying for his legal defense when this is clearly something that happened outside the scope of his duties? It's all corrupt. Carlos, New York City in a nutshell is what the country's going through. It's a microcosm. And unfortunately, as New York City goes, so does the country. It's still the financial mecca of the United States. So you got to pray for the best there. You can't be having this. The taxpayers, New York City, please, if you're listening and you're watching, wake up, start becoming informed. Don't be a low information voter like the people that Eric Adams loves to, prey on. God ordained him to be the mayor. Please don't be bamboozled by that anymore, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, they say, what is it? The Bible says about God ordaining, our leaders and all that stuff. But sometimes it's because you need a leader that's going to make the country or, whatever, hit rock bottom. So like that, you can realize you need to go, you need to improve your situation by getting new leaders. And hopefully New York City's rock bottom right now, and we'll get new leaders. So. Was it next year's the election, right?
Yeah, next year's election.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm only trying to expose. I'm exposing this Anthony Miranda, this other clown that's underneath there again. It's one by one. You got to show the people what's going on. Otherwise, they'll be stuck with another term of Eric Adams, who may or may not be indicted in prison. Who knows? New York City is full of low information voters, but they all vote on their hatred. So Trump is a bad guy. They won't vote for him, but they'll vote on, hey, vote for me. I'm the swagger man with no plan. And all my haters become my waiters at the table of success. That's what they want. They love a guy that says that kind of stuff and sexually assaults women, apparently, allegedly, and as a abuse of their police badge. He did it as a sergeant. He took advantage of this woman. So, but hey,
keep it out there. Keep up the work, because if like we said, the mainstream media is not going to cover this, or at least there'll be a puff piece article like the one I just pulled up, where where more of the details that they're not putting into there.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
So, that being said, let people know again where they could find you.
Sure. So
like that, they could.
I'm here on X at the Sal Greco. Same on Instagram. Also on Truth Social, I'm at head of the table, and on YouTube, on Rumble, at the Sal Greco Show. I like to put up new episodes all the time. I talk about various things: law, politics, food, wrestling, as you just heard.
Right, I got to get you back on because I'm even though I don't look it right now because I hurt my back, but I'm a physical, I'm a weightlifting enthusiast.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I saw that you like to work out too. So
yep. Oh yeah, I'm a big workout guy. I go to gym at least 5 or 6 times a week. I've been doing that my whole life. Got to get back into doing more cardio, but of course you need the time. But if I'm out here, basically working, to save the, I'll say, I don't know, the city or the country, and informing them of just how corrupt people are, and need to be more, informed on what's going on, then maybe I could run for 2 hours a day like I used to when I was a cop. But when I was a cop, I remember I was set days. Certain days I'd make arrests. So, at other days you kind of took it easier. So it was easy for me to work out 3 hours in a day when, I went into work and really knew that it was more scaled back because I was really going to work my way to Thursday night, Friday night, making that arrest of a DWI or something. So, I was later on in my career. Earlier on, it was a lot of work. I was working out 3 hours a day. I was working all day and night. I barely got any sleep. In the later years, I worked in a DWI unit, so you could kind of pick your spots of when you knew you were going to make an arrest on Thursday. And it was crazy. Yeah. And so the other days, you could spend 2 hours running because you went to work going, all right, I'm not going to really, it's going to be a little easier tonight because, my partner's going to make that arrest, not me. So.
Also, you have the lighter days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday are the heavier drinking days.
Yeah, those were the days. But then you know what? I flipped it because as much as I'm talking now, I remember that it was a week I had a DWI every single night. I went the whole week still training 3 hours a day, and every night barely getting any sleep because I was arresting a guy. I got to the point where I made so much overtime and so many arrests that there's a 3-month period. We call it a quarter. You're only allowed to make a certain amount of overtime due to all this stuff you get. You have to go to court. And I did it in like less than 4 weeks. So the next 2 months, I was ordered to don't make any arrests, don't do it. So they were like, all right, everyone else says, all right. So my partner did it instead. But those were the times I remember. Those were good times. It was times that the city was a lot safer because you knew when I was out there. You never knew. You never know what could have happened. You never know.
All right. Well, don't sign off just yet, but I'm gonna end the live stream. So everybody, like I said, you can find Sal, and you also have your website too, right? Don't you have that? It's
salgreco.com. I do have to revitalize it at a certain point, but it's very, very hard to do it when you're a one-man show. So
I'm there with you because I have my Right Rican website. I don't have much on it. You have yours is a little bit better than mine. Because you at least have some like articles and stuff. I don't even.
Yeah.
I just have it connected to my social media.
The bare minimum. It's a bare minimum for me right now.
But so you can find him he said, Twitter, mainly Twitter, YouTube, Rumble is where he does his channel. Well, with that being said, everyone, hope you guys enjoyed the show and have a good week, everyone.
God bless. All right. Well, there you have it. There's my interview with my friend. Please do me a favor if you can. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you're seeing here on YouTube. If you're on Rumble, hit the Rumble button. Once again, if you want, give me a nice review there if you feel inclined to on Apple Podcast or Spotify or Google or any of those other platforms. I like to end it on a note here that a certain individual from the New York City Police Department, Kaz Daughtry, I got a video that shows he is, I guess, trying to become a singer. And, listen, he might have a future if he wants to give up being an abusive NYPD executive that takes law enforcement action, despite the fact that he's a civilian and there's never been a legally defined, a legal definition of what exactly he is allowed to do, what his purpose is on the job, if he's allowed to handcuff suspects, put his hands on suspects, because he has no oversight. You complain to the Department of Investigation to find out exactly what his legal authority and role is in the NYPD, and they talk to you and never talk to you again, as we learned with Anthony Miranda. So I noticed the Department of Investigation, which is an organization that answers to, once again, the mayor of New York City because they fund them. I believe it's a useless organization. You should just go right to the Southern District of New York because they can't investigate themselves there. The NYPD, the DOI, the Conflict of Interest Board, the City Council, they all party together. That's what I've noticed. So with that being said, let's play this video. And like I said, if you like what you see and you hear, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that Rumble button. Share everything that you hear out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and all the other major platforms. And with that, I'd like to say, have a good day, have a good night, and I'll see you in the next episode. Adios.